Hey, okay, so I was in the middle of working on a video where I compare an old PC with old GPUs to a new PC with new GPUs when I just got very distracted by a completely different video idea. Basically, I've received two different 2070s from MSI, their gaming edition card and their gaming Z edition card. So I just had a little look into these two cards and realised that they're essentially exactly the same card except for one thing, their rated boost clock, with the gaming edition 2070 having a boost clock of 1620 MHz, whilst the gaming Z has a boost clock of 1830 MHz. Apart from that, they both have the same twin Frozen 7 cooler, the same backplate, the same amount of GDDR6 memory, 8GB, the same everything really. Although Nvidia actually speed bins the RTX 2070's TU106 die into two different variants, one with an A in the codename and one without an A in the codename. Now, I'm not actually going to take apart these cards to check, but since Nvidia says that the non-A models must be sold with the reference 1620 MHz boost clock, it's highly likely that the Gaming Z uses an A chip, whereas the standard gaming doesn't. But anyways, apart from the difference in boost clock, there's also a difference in price, with the Gaming Z being around £50 more. Which makes me think, should you pay more for the higher clocked card? Going into this, I'd say yes, but then again, I've never had the opportunity to test two identical cards apart from the clock speed before, so I don't know how much difference in performance there'll actually be between the two, or what the results will be if I overclock both these cards, or how annoyed MSI will be that I've gotten distracted from the video that I'm actually meant to be working on. But either way, I think this could be a fun little video idea to try out. So just in case any of you out there aren't aware, Nvidia's cards actually take into account both temperature and power targets to automatically increase the GPU clock speed higher than the rated boost clock speeds. But as the two cards that I'm testing are as identical as can be, this removes quite a few variables. So to start, this is everything stock, straight out the box and into the test system. On screen, you can see both the real-time actual GPU clock speed and frame rate for both cards, as I run through the Metro Exodus benchmark. I'm giving both cards multiple runs of the benchmark to allow them to warm up, so that the clock speed will be as stable as possible. The Gaming Z edition sits at 1920 MHz for the entire duration of the test, whereas the Gaming edition's frequency fluctuates between 1740 and 1815 MHz, with 1785 being the most frequent megahertz. This results in a difference of around 2.5 frames per second. I have to say that I was actually expecting a much bigger difference. I'm not sure why though, as you know, I've overclocked many cards in the past and that normally only results in a couple of FPS difference. I think it's just that 1830 looks to be such a higher number than 1620 on paper. Now the next thing I want to try is just increasing the power and temperature limits to the maximum. With the power limit, the Gaming Z can be set to 111%, whereas the gaming goes to 114%. This is just because the Gaming Z's GPU gets a higher power limit out of the box. I'm also manually setting the speed of both GPU's fans to 70%, as I think that's a good number, and of course I want to remove cooling as a variable from the results. I'm not going to touch voltage in this video though, since in my experience it doesn't make much difference, if any, and according to Nvidia, doing so lowers the expected lifespan of your card. This added 30 to 45 MHz to the Gaming Z and added around 60 MHz to the gaming card. The gaming card continued to fluctuate its clock speed a lot more than the Z throughout the test. This resulted in an increase in FPS as expected and closes the gap in performance between the two cards. So these differences would typically be considered margin of error, but I found that the Metro benchmark is very repeatable and that these results are extremely consistent run after run. Also, I should probably mention that the number you see in the graphs is an average of 3 runs, ran whilst not recording game footage, as not to affect the results. So next, I want to give the OC scanner a go, just because I'm very interested to see what it gives me for each of these cards. I don't have much experience with this method of overclocking, but I've had stable results with it so far, which is, to be expected, as it was built by Nvidia. However, it does take 25 minutes to scan, so make sure you have the time if you give it a go yourself. The Gaming Z ended up with an average overclock of plus 66 MHz across the frequency curve. The Gaming edition, however, manages an average overclock of plus 191 MHz. Now, I would normally overclock the memory at this point, but I just really want to focus on the difference between the two GPUs in this video, and, memory overclocking adds another variable that can drastically sway the results. Now, I had expected that the lower clock card would support a higher overclock because, there's more headroom there, whereas the already higher factory clock card is a lot closer to the limitations of the RTX 2070 in general, so, it doesn't have as much headroom. But I honestly wasn't expecting the difference to be this large. This, in the Metro Exodus benchmarks, allows the cheaper card to just edge past the more expensive card in terms of performance, which I wasn't expecting at all. The gaming Z sits at 1980 MHz throughout the test, whereas the gaming fluctuates between 1980 and 1995 MHz, sitting at the higher number for most of the tests, giving it its higher performance result. However, as we're talking ridiculously small margins here, like 0.16 of a frame per second, even though this gap is consistent, it's just not something you'd ever notice in real-world gameplay. So throwing OC scanner at both of these cards has essentially resulted in you just getting the same gaming experience from both cards. The last step is to manually overclock both of these cards. For the gaming Z, I managed to get a stable overclock of plus 110 MHz, and with the gaming, I managed an overclock of plus 200 MHz. So running these both through the Exodus benchmark, I find that this puts the gaming Z at 2 FPS in the lead again. The gaming running between 2010 and 2040 MHz, and the gaming Z running at 2055 MHz. Unfortunately, there's not really much you can take away from this part of the testing though, because, of course, as with all overclocking, your mileage may vary. So it's now time that I took all of these test configurations and ran them for a few other games, just to see if that changes anything. Firstly, with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, there's 3 FPS difference at stock, the same exact result using OC scanner, and 2 FPS difference of manual overclock. Next up with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Interestingly, these cards perform the same both with OC scanner and a manual overclock. And then finally Forza Horizon 4. Again, this shows that the biggest difference between these two cards is the stock clocks. So whilst there's a lot more that I could do with these two cards, like I'd love to play with flashing the BIOS from one to the other, for example, if that's even possible, I really should be getting back to the video that I'm meant to be working on right now. So therefore, to kind of conclude this video, I think that what I've learned is that given the choice between these two cards, I'd want to get the higher clock card. Just, because if I wasn't going to overclock, I'd want the additional out-of-the-box performance of the higher clock card. And if I was going to overclock, I'd want the extra leg up that you're likely to get with the more expensive speed bin chip. So, regardless, I'd want the better card. But that being said, £50 is £50, and that could go into another part of your build, or by saving £50, that might just be the difference between you being able to afford the card and not being able to. So honestly, I'm tempted to say just save the money, run the OC scanner, set that to apply on Windows Startup, and then just forget about it. Because if your experience is anything like mine, then you'll essentially have the exact same card for less. Although, again, your mileage may vary. I think that there is a wider discussion to be had here though, that because the MSI RTX 2070 gaming is still a fairly high-end and pricey RTX 2070, that if you are happy to go for the lower stock GPU boost frequency, then you could just start looking at cheaper cooler designs instead, as you can get stock clock 2070s over £100 cheaper than the gaming Z card. But of course then you'd have to weigh up the drawbacks of, having a less pretty and less effective cooler design. So yeah, if you like this video, then please hit the like button. Let me know in the comments below if you'd pay more for a factory overclock card. If you haven't already and you want to see more of my videos, like the video I'm supposed to be working on, then please don't forget to subscribe, or perhaps consider becoming a patron. Thank you for watching.